So good day. We're learning Hechaltzu, the Maim of the Rebbe Rashab of 1898. We're in middle of chapter 27. We're at the point where he talks about what's called the Reshimu, a remnant of the RC, and today he's going to talk about the Kav, the line, the vector. So today I'm going to read quite a bit of the notes because they're very, very good and self-explanatory, and I'll elaborate on them. So what page do you have us on, Chaim Zev?
Page 133. 233.
233, and we're holding, I'll tell you, is...
I'm not Nakuda.
Amna Nakuda, right. So it's the last line on, right?
Right, so this is about, it's halfway down.
Halfway, okay. Amna Nakuda Zu, this Nakuda. That's a remnant of the idea of the Chochba, of the Arasav, he gamkein behela madayit. It's still concealed. V'nimshach mimenu hakav, next page, and what's drawn from it is only a vector, a line, v'chut, a thread kind of. This is metaphorically speaking, okay? Shehu p'chinas gilui oir. And within that kav and chut, within that line and thread, there is revelation. The reishis hislapshusai who be adam kadmon. Where is the first place in which the revelation enclosed itself in, invests itself in, is in something called primordial man, Ak, known in Hasidus and Kabbalah as an acronym for Adam Kadmoin. Okay, I want to read now the note here. To refer back to the analogy of the teacher, after he has established the starting point for his lessons, he must then build it. Similarly, the point of the Reshimu is concealed, and revelation comes only afterwards. As the Rebbe Rashab proceeds to explain, nevertheless, there is a fundamental difference between the analogy and the analog. The point from which the teacher begins his lesson is what remains from the substance of his initial conception, which had shape and form. The point of the Reshimu, by contrast, is one of utter nothingness. And therefore, the only way that there can be some kind of revelation is through what we call the kav, the line, or chut, the thread, meaning a revelation of light is drawn from it. And he explains, a line and a vector connect one point to another. Similarly, the kav connects the essence of God's light with the framework of material existence. Now he summarizes. To summarize, the Kabbalistic concepts explained until this point. Originally, on a level above all being, there existed only God and his light. Afterwards, when he desired to bring existence into being, he had to conceal his light. Furthermore, that concealment had to be total and absolute, leaving no revelation of the original light. Otherwise, that light would be too powerful to allow for there to be any other existence. Only a single point, which we call the Reshimu, vestige, remained. From that single point was drawn down a vector, a kav, of light, from which all existence came into being. Vereshis hislapshusai, now the next page, the first stage of his enclothement, and the note now. When light is revealed naturally, it does not have a kli, a medium. Instead, it is revealed as is, without reckoning with the limitations of the place into which it shines. Thus, as explained in Chassidus, the sun's light shines into murky places totally unfit for its light. When light is enclosed within a kli or a mekabel, a recipient, the light is enclosed within, that is, adapted and tailored to fit the limits of the medium or recipient, like a teacher who adapts his lesson so that his students can understand. This constitutes the difference between the light that shone before the tzimtzum and the light that shined afterwards. The light that shone before the tzimtzum radiated forth God's undefined unit, infinity as is. The light that shines after the tzimtzum, by contrast, adapts and tailors God's light so that it fits the limits of defined existence. Do I need to explain this, or is it understood? Isser, did you understand what we just read?
I understand it, but I don't know that I'm average because I had a background in this. So
Okay, Chaim Zev, you got it? Is it clear to you?
Yes, I do. I understand.
Okay, Moshe, were you on for this part? I'm not sure. Okay, well, I'm not going to repeat it, Moshe, I'm sorry, but ask you, please, over Shabbos, to reread these 2 pages, because it's really explains everything. But briefly, this is, I want to summarize in my own words. We have 3 things. If you can remember these 3 things, you're doing good. We have Oirein Sof, infinite God, infinite light. Pre-Tzimtzum, okay? Then we have Tzimtzum, contraction of the infinite light. And what's left over is Reshimu. I call it a remnant. He used another word for it before. Leftover, Reshimu, impression. You only used the word impression yesterday. But that isn't enough for there to be creation. You see, say a teacher, a teacher has so much knowledge. He conceals his knowledge, and he now sees that there is a recipient, students that he wants to teach. If he were to only teach with what he contracted, contraction is negativity. Contraction is holding back. How can you teach if you're holding back? That's an oxymoron. That's what Kabbalah and Chassidus say, you're right. But what happened through the contraction was that there was the formation of the kav, the line, the thread. And that is revelation. It's small, minute revelation, but already it's revelation. So what would that be in the analogy of the teacher? Where the teacher finds the words to communicate the idea that he wishes to communicate. And mind you, this is the difference between a good teacher, a good professor, and not a great teacher or professor. This is mamish the issue. Whether the teacher is able and understands that in order to communicate well, they need to go back within themselves. Then within themselves to find a place for another. And then to communicate somehow to the other, to their students. Like I told you yesterday with Reb Yoel, that this person who said that his genius is not in what he says, it's in what he doesn't say. Right? Yes.
So the thing is, though, I want to ask a question. I feel like the field that we're talking about here, the teacher imparting the actual knowledge, what he says, how much he imparts, how much he doesn't. But what about the whole dimension of teaching of an educator, that he has to be able, the whole psychological element, emotional element of him or her connecting with the student?
We're not talking about that. That's true, but we're not talking about that.
Isn't that part and parcel
No, that's
Communicate?
no, Moshe. That's part and parcel of the overall experience. Here we're talking about information, data. I think I know what you're saying. You're saying if emotionally there's a connection between the teacher and the student, then the student will gravitate to work harder and to understand the idea, right? That's probably what you're saying.
Yes, that, and also it's not just emotional, but in general, an educator who's in a classroom. Let's just take a classroom situation.
Right.
Not even a classroom, but let's just take a classroom. The teacher has to be able. He's got multiple students, different levels. He's got to be able to be on and connect with the entire class.
Okay.
Classroom management. If he doesn't, it doesn't matter what he's going to show.
Right, but that's true, but we're not talking about that either. We're talking now about the original initial go over, from world of teacher to world of student. You're talking about other details that are important, but you can't begin with the other details if the teacher doesn't recognize the world of a student. That's what we're talking about here. And in the creation of the world, it's the same thing. You can't talk about Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach. One second. You can't talk about all those things before there is a world. If there is no emergence of a world, the spheros don't make sense. Or you have a world of angels, a world of souls, a world of primordial men. In other words, not our world. We're talking about our world. For our world to be, you need the first thing is these three ideas. Yes.
I just want to, Moshe, I think that this teacher-student thing, it's a mushroom, it's an analogy. And you're taking the analogy beyond where it was meant to go.
In this context.
The whole thing of formal of education. It's just this one little aspect.
Right.
That's all.
That's right. That's correct. Moshe, what Issa said is correct. I said it in my words. We're not focusing on the other issues, and Issa is right. In Chassidus, when you bring a mashal, this is very important. It doesn't mean that we're looking at all aspects of the mashal, of the analogy. We're looking at a select, particular part of the mashal, and it could be that the other parts don't jive. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, and it doesn't make the mashal false because I'm not concerned about those other parts. Let's continue. And he says now, so he says, where is the first place of revelation? He says it's in primordial man. In Hebrew, in Lashon Kabbalah, Adam Kadmon. Look at the note, please. The term Adam, man, is used because the human body is a varied being with different organs and limbs combining as a comprehensive whole. As such, the term Adam is employed by Kabbalah as an analogy for different rungs of existence. Adam Kadmon, he says primeval man, is used because it is the first existence brought into being by the Kav. The note. After Adam Kadmon, the Seder Hishtalshelus, the chain-like progression of spiritual worlds begin. They begin. There are multiple spiritual realms enabling God's light to descend and bring into being our material world in a manner allowing there to be an appreciation of the spiritual realms above it and ultimately of God, the Creator. In Adam Kadmon, all these forms of existence are found in potential. Now, I want to bring to your attention, sometimes you will hear from a chassid, or you will learn in a maimer or a sicha, this is the way we look at it in Adam Kadmon. So Adam Kadmon has become, in the Chabad world, a buzzword, a trigger word for a concept This, what we're learning here, is the originality of the concept of Adam Kadmon. But I want you to know that it's become like a trigger word, meaning, look at the situation the way it was originally, Adam Kadmon. There's a famous Chabad saying, "Imachshava akduma de'ak," in the primordial thought of Adam Kadmon, there all existed, for example. And that's actually brought, I believe, in Kabbalah and Chassidus for sure. The concept being that in this primordial state, things were all united. Things were all great. Things all fit in. Why? Because it was kind of post-existence, but pre-development of existence. And in that state, everything made sense. Once this starts what we call heaven, this is so important to say that Hechaltzu, which you've learned thousands of times in Chassidus, the order of progression, of the chain-like progression, meaning the development of the light, of God's light, as it caters itself to this world and that world and this soul and that soul and these angels, all of that, that's when problems start. That's when problems start. Meaning, what problems? The problems that the angels have complaints on humans, and humans have complaints on each other's, on and on and on. Because that's the beginning of Yesh, in a sense. In Adam Kadmon, Yesh is, I would say, much less and virtually none. To say it's none, it's not. You can't say that because it's still already a creation. I don't want to go into it, but Adam Kadmon is also a creation, and the proof is Adam Kadmon didn't exist before Tzimtzum. But that's not for now. Let's continue. Vehi Pchinas Hashetach. Okay, so we have three things. Another summary. Nekuda, Kav, Shetach. Point, line, and area. Shetach is area. Look at the note, very important. In geometry, a point has no dimensions. A line is one-dimensional, and an area is two-dimensional. You're all college educated, so I know you understand this. Possessing both length and width. So in other words, Moshe, in the Kav, there's no length and the width because it's only one-dimensional. But when you come to Shetach, to area, there it's multi-dimensional because it's area, it's Shetach. And he says, the Rebbe Rashab uses this analogy to describe the sequence through which the spiritual cosmos, that is, a framework of existence that appears apart from its godly source, has been brought into being. It begins with the point of the Reshimu, like a point that has no dimensions. The Reshimu is entirely concealed. Now, from the Reshimu emanates the Kav, next page, a vector of light, a revealed ray, and that ray brings into being a framework of existence, which is an area, a Shetach, which appears to exist as an independent entity. So what do we have? We have Nikuda, point, Kav, line, one-dimensional, Shetach, multidimensional area. Where does independent entity begin? Not in Nikuda, not in Kav, but only in Shetach. And that's what I was referring to earlier. That's where Yesh takes form, multidimensional. Back into the text. And this is referred to as the Hiriyulah, the supernal purity which follows the Tzimtzum. It says, he carved an engraving into Hiriyulah. Sheyesh shom klolis heshtalshelus, over there exists. This engraving includes the overall spiritual cosmos, Mereish Kol Dargin, not Sof Kol Dargin, from the beginning, from the most sublime to the lowest of levels. Ad Madrega Yeshet Achtoino, to the lowest, Hakol Asher Al Kol Kol B'chinas Ak. All levels of being are included in Odom Kadmish, because of Mokem Acher, as explained elsewhere. V'nimtza, the Rashab summarizes. Sheyesh Kam Beis B'chinas Oyer, there are two levels of light. Ha'alef, the first levels, B'chinas Ha'oyer Harishayin, the initial original light, which is pre-Tzimtzum, Shelofnei Tzimtzum, pre-contraction. Shahaya Oirin Sof, next page, Mimale Kol HaCholol, it was infinite light that filled the entire void, the entire space was filled with light. Then comes along the Habeis, B'chinas Oirakav, hear the words? Then comes along the light of the kav, of the line, Sha'acharat Tzimtzum, which is post-Tzimtzum. These two lights are entirely different from each other. The first light represents the original revelation, which shines forth from the Ein Sof, from the infinite. It's this light that then becomes concealed vis-a-vis the contraction. So what is left over from it? Rak nekuda, only a point. Which is still in a state of concealment. The second level of light is the light of the kav. It comes into revelation from the state of concealment in which the point exists. Thus, the concealment led to revelation. The Oir HaKav comes from the Nekuda, the Imkein. Hariyesh Kan Beis HaFochim. Rashab says we have two opposites going on. We have the infinite light of God, the original infinite. Nasa B'chinas Elam is concealed by Tzimtzum Adishim through the first Tzimtzum, contraction. Umashinishin Nekuda, next page. And we also have simultaneously B'chinas Helem V'Hedrei Spashtus L'Gamri. I'm sorry, and this is concealed. And afterwards, specifically from the concealment, from the point, comes about Oir HaKav through the Reshimu, the light of the line and the thread, meaning beginning of emergence of area. You know, we say in davening, do you ever think about these words, Chavre? He rolls away light before darkness and darkness before light. So look at the way the Chassidus Chabad explains this daily saying that we say. The Goyal Hadishin, Hashem rolled away the original light. The Ein Sof, Shelofnei Tzimtzum. Moshe, the original light of infinity, God rolls away. Get out of here. Go somewhere else. Mipnei, and why does he roll it away? Because of the characters of Tzimtzum. So it rolls away and goes into one point. We say Hashem rolls back the remnant of that, the remnant of the darkness of the removal and the contraction, because he wants light, which is the Oir HaKav Shemeir Achat Tzimtzum, referring to the light of the kav, of the line, which is after the Tzimtzum. Look at the last note on this page. The anthropomorphic wording of the above phrases, as well as the implication that light and darkness are entities of substance, are obviously features of speech and not appropriate in a spiritual sense. Right. Kitzer, we'll finish with this. Gilui vehelem b'shorshem b'sachdusam. We learned in this paragraph, I'll read the English translation. The previous chapters identified the revelation within the attribute of Bina and concealment. with the attribute of Chokhmah, and explained how they unite and function synergistically. In the present chapter, the Rebbe Rasha began discussing the existence of a revelation and concealment in their very source, and how these two motives are unified. The Rasha proceeds to mention the various stages in the process of the revelation of God's light. Number one, the light before the tzimtzum. Number two, the tzimtzum. Number three, the vestige that remains. Vestige that remains afterwards that exists as a point. And number four, the light of the kav. He explains how revelation and concealment function harmoniously, bringing into being Adam Kadmon and the spiritual realms below it, and ultimately our material world. Once in a while, Chevra, it's good to fly, to go into the world of the unknown, which this was part of what we learned this morning. Someone was saying something. What?
I have a question. It seems like that the kav is just it's the same as God's as the infinite the Ein Sof. It's just as much. It's condensed. It's much smaller. But
no. I good question, but totally wrong. The first tzimtzum, I'll tell you why. You would be right, Chaim Zev, if the tzimtzum was what we call in Chassidus a tzimtzum b'derech miut, a minimization. The tzimtzum we're talking about, so it's called tzimtzum arishin, is, he used the word in the beginning English, an absolute tzimtzum. It's not just a minimization. It's a different kind. So when you're going from pre-tzimtzum, then tzimtzum arishon, and then what comes about is Ur HaKav, it's night and day. It's night and day.
It has to be
Go ahead.
to be a remnant. We said it's a remnant of what's left over from the Orient Sof. So
Wait, no. We said, the Rashab said that there's an akuda that has to be a remnant because Gilui must come, development and Shetach must, it can't come from negativity and withholding. It has to come from positivity and giving. So the Reshimu has within itself a remnant of Ein Sof, but that's only on the Kuda. How can you have Shetach? You can't have Shetach. So there must be, one second, Isser, there must be a Kav. In other words, Kav means, again, now remember, you're asking a very good question. There's a difference between Kav, which is one-dimensional, and the Kuda, which isn't even one-dimensional. So true, one-dimensional Kav is not Shetach, multi-dimensional. And if it were only from Kav, you couldn't have this world we have. We need multi-dimensional, we need Shetach area. But the prelude, or the progenitor, to allow Shetach to be is dafka from Kav. From one, no, once you are one-dimensional, you're going to get to multi-dimensional. To go from the Kuda to that, it won't happen. It will stay in the world of Nakuda. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to share that the way that this was taught to me when I was learning Otros Achayim was the analogy of a plutonium rod. You have a plutonium rod, you take it away. And what's left is...
Wait, please. For us ignoramuses, what is a plutonium rod?
It's what radioactivity comes from, nuclear reactions.
Okay,
so you take away the rod and you're left with radioactivity. It's not the rod, it's the Reshima. It's the leftover impression from that thing that was present. From that then emerges a kav. That was the analogy that that our teacher used. This kind of background radiation. It's not the plutonium. It's just what's left over from it.
And from what's left. So Isser's question was
that itself. Then kav emerges from that.
Right. So his question, I think, is, or part of his question is, why do we need kav if we can go directly from the Nakuda, from
the Reshima itself is too powerful. The Reshima itself has to undergo a
So I hear what you're saying, and you bring it back memories of 50 years ago when I really was into this and learning it as a bacher. But I said another nakuda, and I must have heard it from Rabbi Yoel, that you made one point that Reshimu is too powerful, because it's a Reshimu of Ein Sof. That's your argument, right?
Yeah.
I made another point. I said that Reshimu is a tnua shlilit. It's a withholding.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's a different. It
is different. It is different.
You hear that?
It is different.
Right.
I hear it.
And it could be both are true. Both. You touch something that's in the back of my brain. I have no. But I believe that there's discussion about these two things. In other words, it could be these are two aspects of Reshimu. You're bringing back things I haven't looked at in 50 years, but this was...
Also, we are limited by human language and human minds. And these are just attempts to help us understand things which are so beyond our understanding.
Okay, that's a given. Issa, that's a given, but that's what the Balatanya wanted from in Chabad. But Balatanya wanted that we should understand, we should work to understanding these things, not just say them and read them like we're reading Zohar. That's the difference between Kabbalist, Kabbalah, and Chassidus. Anyway, Chevra, have a great Shabbos. We'll see everyone Hashem Monday. Seid gesund, good learning, good discussion. Take care. Bye.